So I see that I don't know if you are still, but I see that you are, you must be a public speaker, okay,
Yeah.
and storyteller, okay,
Yeah.
and you have demonstrated that in this.
I love stories.
Short conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so public speaking and storytelling in communication and education. What's the biggest benefits of you, an educator, being able to speak and to tell stories?
Right. This is what my kind of LinkedIn thing is all about.
Yes.
It's all about being able to shift perception and change minds. And that, I think, is where the public speaking and the storytelling come in.
Yeah.
I've been public speaking since I was about 15.
Wow.
A teacher saw something in me and pushed me. An English teacher I had called Mr. Shiner. I went to a school called Leon School, which is now, I think, Leon Academy, in a small town called Bletchley, in Milton Keynes in the UK.
Okay.
And
close to me.
For some reason, a teacher there, Mr. Shiner, who's passed away since then, he saw something in me and pushed me to enter competitions in public speaking. And I started off pretty badly, and slowly started winning trophies and then became a judge. It was like a Toastmasters thing, and a company called Stone and Webster at the time, which was involved. I've never lost the passion for it. I love talking. My wife and kids will tell you that. But more importantly, I love to tell stories. And it's not about stories. It's about giving people an opportunity to relate and understand to what you're saying, and then to be able to change your mindset, to get something good across to people. Why is this so important in education? Well, that's kind of how people learn. When I was teaching, and it's still my favorite part of education, being a leader is not as much fun as being a teacher, I'll tell you that now. When I was teaching, one of my favorite phrases, if any of my students were listening to this, they'll attest to this, is when I say, okay, close your books. When I say, okay, close your books,
that means story time.
Oh my God, you knew Mr. Welbeck is about to unleash. He's about to unleash. He's about to tell you about something which is really going to have an impact. Well, and this is where my impact was. I'll be honest with you. I would very cleverly connect it to the content that we're doing. That's the whole purpose of it.
Yeah.
But I would plan it sometimes and sometimes not plan it. Sometimes it would come into my mind. But the idea was to use this form of communication to be able to allow students to really relate to what it is that they need to learn. And when you can relate to what you're learning, you can remember it.
Yes.
You can understand
it. Very
it.
important. Yes.
Yeah. And then you can use that in other contexts, which is what we're talking about assessment. When you've learned something and can use it in a new context, now we know that the understanding is there. And the best way to gain that is to relate it to your life so that you understand it well. And so this is where I think the benefits are. That's in school. When you leave school, communication becomes everything.
Yeah.
And if it's something which you have not had the opportunity to develop, then you will struggle. There are people today that struggle to communicate what they want at work, who struggle to communicate what they aspire to within relationships when they get married. There are people who have some fantastic ideas and could spearhead so many great innovations and changes, but don't know how to communicate them. There are people who, look, apparently if you Google it, America's biggest fear, for Americans, not America as a country, but for individuals in America, the biggest fear is public speaking. That's what gives people the biggest jitters.
No, it's not only Americans, it's worldwide.
I'd imagine so. I mean, that's the stat that I've seen, on Google. And for me, that is, I can understand it because I remember having that. But having developed it, I can now see how important it is for me.
Yeah.
And how important it is for organizations that I'm responsible for. And then also how important that is for advocating change. You know, some of the best storytellers I know aren't teachers. They are businessmen. They are philanthropists. They are change makers in all sorts of fields. But what they do really, really well is they tell stories. They inspire people. And when you inspire people, people follow you. And when they follow you, change happens. So there's a direct connection.
That's very, very interesting. One of the things, my first job in the world is teaching. My very first job, because in Nigeria, when you graduate from a tertiary institution, we do what we call the NYSC, National Youth Service Corps. So after my BSc, I was a teacher in my own secondary school. So I went back there and I was a biology teacher for that would be year 10. All
right. So you're one of us. You've been in the trenches.
See, so now, before then, I have never stood in front of 30, 40 students. But looking at what my parents did, and when I was in school, in university, I was a very bold person. I normally stand up in front of, I stood up, but in the midst of other students. To talk about things. So I was a little bit comfortable to do that. And I've learned some little things about storytelling, because my father is pretty good at it, you know. So storytelling and public speaking is very, very important. Like you said, it's a very necessary skill that teachers, educators, parents, business people need to learn.